In this third series um, of awareness, change, and well-being, we're going to be looking at the place of relationship in this human space of diversity and the nature of love. So just stay tuned and you'll be blessed. So let's get down here. Can we share the link? All right. Please, as we proceed, if there's any question, especially for us that are online, just put it down before time so that we don't have to waste any time. And because you are writing, and so you do it on time, okay? And let's see how far we can go. We have just less than 2 hours in this class, and let's make good use of it. All right. So we have been on these I've been on this lecture series. This should be the third class, right? Okay, so we do a breakdown. All right, this is the after this, next week we round off and take a break and just look back, reflect, and see what we can attain on our personal basis. All right. So we started by having to look at the nature of the field, right? The nature of the field, and then the nature of our thoughts, right? The nature, the character of our thoughts is limitation, and our attitude to that, space of thought. Okay, how that that model, okay, cannot be imposed on life. Cannot be imposed on life, and so whatever that is going on in your thought space, you cannot always impose it on life and say, okay, because of how you are thinking, that's how life is going to turn out. It doesn't really work that way, in most cases. All right. And so there is the attitude to the nature of thoughts, okay, and then there is the attitude to the field of life as that endless, space of possibilities. All right. Now, one of the things that we were able to come to terms with is what? Trusting the field, right? How many of us remember? Okay. Let's trusting the field, right? So awareness, change, and well-being, and in looking into that, we establish the it's an intelligence, right? It's an intelligent. In fact, it takes intelligence to be aware, all right, of your thoughts, and not just your thoughts, to be aware of the limitations of your what? Limitations of your thoughts. And so we spoke extensively on the nature of human thought, and how that thought is the same thing as what? Memory, right? And then if you go further, it's the same thing as time, right? Yes. So all of this is happening within the spectrum of time, and that where trust comes in, all right, is from the realization, from the knowing that reality goes beyond the borders of one's own thought, right? That reality cannot all be, captured within the model of your thoughts. It's beyond it, and because it's beyond it, all right, beyond what you can just feel, beyond what you can see, beyond what you can touch, all right, there is truth beyond that, and that pulling beyond the borders of your thoughts, happens on the basis of what? On the basis of trust. Okay, now we're going to do a breakdown, and then next week, as we're rounding up, all right, we're going to do a kind of questioning our answers. Okay, now this is going to be after I do all of the breakdown, you go back and contemplate on all of this, and then look into it by yourself. Okay, and then we'll come together and just commune in this and question our answers. Okay, that's how we grow, right? All right, we grow by having to question, and not just to question the things that are out there. We also question our perceptions of life. We question our answers. Okay, sometimes we already have a preconceived answers already, and that's why our life is so boring. Okay, because we already have a conclusion, and the reason why it appears that we are not going through that mutating process, all right, as an evolutionary experience, is because there is an existing, a preconceived conclusion that we have about our lives, about the things that happens around us. Therefore, that spirit of inquiry is hindered. Do you get what I'm saying? It's hindered. All right. So no matter what no matter what you are, what you think okay, you see, do not fall into the trap, all right, of having an already made disposition, right, about life itself, all right, that will not give room for expansion. It will not give room for transition. All right, and so when you understand the limitation of your thought, what that does is it brings you to a place of trust. To what? To a place of trust. Trust that takes you beyond the borders of your thought, that takes you beyond the edge of your thought, of your thinking pattern. All right, and so just in case you missed the lecture, all right, if you are watching, try and get the part 1 of the series. We dealt extensively on the nature of thoughts, all right, and our attitude to thoughts, and then our attitude to the mystery of life. All right, now on the second lecture series, we talked about what? We talked about what? Non-duality. So first is, don't forget we have the big picture. The big picture is awareness, change, and well-being. And then in this big picture, we are having building blocks to achieving, what we are, looking into, right? And the second, lecture series, we dealt extensively on non-duality. All right. Now, in dealing with non-duality, we came to understand that what? That the world is what? That the world is a mirror, right? The world, all right, as a mirror. Okay? The world as a mirror. We'll still look more on this. All right. And so we talked about trusting the field, and then last week we talked about non-duality. And in this inquiry, we discussed about the world as what? As a mirror. All right. How that everything is what? It's a reflection of what? Okay. And let's see how today is going to go. So in this class, let me just give a breakdown, a total breakdown, right? Will we examine relationship? All right. Relationships, okay. And then the take home body of inquiry, right, will be dreams and visions. Now, that is going to be part of the concluding discourse, right? Now, don't forget, we're going to question our answers. Next week, whatever answers we have offered here in Trusting Your Field, we're going to question it. And so go through it so you can question it. All right? I don't know if you have taken anything for a conclusion that we said here, but that's not the idea of the lecture. The lecture is to awaken in each individual that what? Spirit of inquiry. All right? To be an inquirer, to be a seeker. All right, to be one that is always on this journey of transition. All right, and so we are not giving you an answer, and we may attempt to give an answer, and that is to, for every answer and conclusion we give, all right, it's an attempt to pave a way for further inquiry. And so we give answer, all right, and then we question our answers. And so in questioning our answers, that opens the door. Okay? And so next week we question whatever answers we have offered here, trusting the field, and then we go on to question non-duality. Me, I have a lot of questions about the answers that we give in non-duality. Okay? And so we're going to question non-duality, the world as a mirror. All right? And today we're going to look together relationship. Okay, and then next week, as we conclude, while questioning on the answers we have given, we then look at the place of dreams and visions in understanding the structure of our own psyche. And so the totality of these building blocks is to gain insights, all right, to bring about that awareness, all right, to initiate a change, that process of change, and then to ultimately lead to an overall well-being. All right, and so these are the building blocks to the series that we have at hand. Okay, and so last week we said the world is as a mirror. So let's look at that a little bit as we tie it up with relationship for today. All right, the world as a mirror. Okay, now when we talk about non-duality, like we said, we're talking about the one. All right, so when you say everything is one in its absolute term, all right, so it means that there is no other, right? Are we together? It means there is no other, and so we have the one, and that one is, you may call it the essence of the universe, and so everything is reflecting that one. All right, and as the one, it could not know itself. And so let's say that let's say maybe you want to look at it religiously, all right, and then you call the one God. Okay, and now in this context, the word God, all right, religiously is not anthropomorphic in nature, right? It's not the God that is masculine, you call he, or you call Father. All right? Also, we like to call God Father, so as to give us that sense of, okay, intimacy, or so that the idea God do not overly become, abstract. Do not look abstract. Do you get what I'm saying? And so when I say God is energy, when I say God is all, it looks abstract. It's not looking tangible. And so when I say God is Father, it gives you a sense of person. All right? It gives you a sense of personhood. Are we together? And so most of our idea of God is so anthropomorphic. All right? And that sense of personhood that such idea gives, it is just for humans. All right? Are you a person? Does the word person actually exist, or it only exists in terms of words? And how do you see words in relation to reality itself? What language does reality has? The extent I've gone about that is the language of reality is not English language. Do we know that? It's not what? It's not life. The language of life is not English. The language of life is not our tribal languages, right? Life itself has a model by which or through which it reflects itself in the space of our knowing. And so when you examine the nature around you, all right, one can understand the language of life spoken in silence. And so when I'm describing it through English language, it's just a metaphor. And so you can't use words. Words are not reality themselves. They are just metaphor. Okay? And so when I say the one, which is the God, the word person doesn't really exist in its actual form. All right? So, but then if God must become real to you, then God must as well become what? He must take on the form of your illusion. All right? There must be God must take on your form. God, the God that talks, the God that has two hands, the God that, moves, the God that gets angry, the God that, God has been constructed in such a way that, it has to be real to our mode of being. You see? But being human is just one of the many modes of being. And so can God be described as a rock? All right? Can the rock be God? Do you get what I'm saying? Can the rock be anything else apart from the way you are as a human being? All right? And so that is where the challenge comes. All right? And so the one, religiously you call it God. And what did we say about God last week? We said the moment one realizes that what? Realizes that the splits, the subject and object splits, the self and the other split, the universe and the observer split, the moment that splits close up, then one realizes himself as the God. And that God is, you are it. You are anything that could be. And so you are the universe reflecting upon itself in this particular way, in this unique way. Now, this paved the way. That understanding paved the way for the place of relationships. All right? Relationship, in fact, the model, the one, the monarch, the undivided one, as the very essence of all things, as the very essence of the universe itself, which we say that it does not know itself. The basis upon which the one that do not know itself reflect upon itself. The model upon which that happens is what you call relationship. And so the only real thing in the world of diversity is relationship. This is the only real thing. All right? Relationship is more real than a person. Are we together? Relationship is more real than a person, because the word a person is a mask shrinking you into a form. But relationship is an idea telling you that, you see, all that really has to do with you is not all this entity here. That there are many things that influences your life that is not all, it's not coming from this single entity. And so, for example, let's talk about understanding the word of your own psyche. How do you understand yourself in that sense? How do I understand me? Okay? How do you understand me? And then as you take on the journey of understanding the entirety of your own psychic structure, you realize that the basis upon which you can only reflect and look within yourself is not primarily to sit in a place meditating. Because you see, the truth be told, that when you sit to meditate, all right, do you know that the only beautiful thing about meditation is that you want to, let's say you want to be quiet, right? You want to be silent. You want to bring a cessation to the movement of thoughts, right? But really, if you really want to examine, look into yourself through meditation, then meditation becomes that which enables you to observe relationships around you. Because the only mirror by which you can look within yourself is not to close your eyes and see into yourself. If you see into yourself, it's organs that you see. Do you get what I'm saying? And if you want to look at your mental self, what you'll be seeing is memories. What? Is bunch of memory, the informations you've acquired. Those are the things you look into by the time you want to really close your eyes. But then, if you want to understand you want to understand, your inside, the nature of your own psychic system. If you want to really understand that, you study it in terms of relationships. All right? And so let's say, when we talk about relationship, we not talk about the place of the splits. All right? The what? The place of the split. And don't forget, when we spoke about non-duality, we said this split is what? There is no split, right? And if there is no split, all what you find is ignorant. Is what? It's ignorant. And so God is the only reality that is absolute ignorance. That's what? God is that which does not know itself. So God is ignorance itself. And so it is the foundation of knowing is ignorance. Without ignorance, there is no knowing. And so when ancient mystics talk about bringing thought into the void, dissolving the movement of thought in where? Into the void, it is, in another word, you call it not knowing. Not what? Not knowing. Not knowing simply means that there is nothing to what? There is nothing to know. Why? There is no knower. There is the knower. All right, in some arena, it's referred to as the ego, right? As the ego. There is no knower. If there is no knower, therefore, there is nothing to what? To be known. And so the basis of that is ignorance, or what you may call that in other words, is ignorance. So in non-duality, there is no split. That split is the essential character of that split, of that non-duality is ignorance. Nothing to know. All right, and so non-duality, we have the absolute one. That absolute one, there is no relationship because there is not the other. All right, and so in the absence of relationship makes knowing the other an impossible what? Experience, right? And so there is no knowing of the other without relationship. And if there is no relationship and there is no knowing of the other, then the one who has attained, now mind my word, I use the word attain because it's a realization. Okay? And so, do you know the reawakened man who has attained non-duality is an ignorant man? Now, not because he does not know, as okay, I know you, I know physics, or I know biology, or I know the world best footballer. Understand my language, and of course, I expect you guys to know my language, okay? And if you are watching me for the first time and you cannot grasp my language, all I can say, or the response to that, is just stay around the corner for a while, and as you listen, you get to understand me, more better. Okay? Now, that is what you find when it comes to non-duality characterized by ignorance. Okay? Now, the split happens when we are dealing with our phenomenal world, we are dealing with our world, the world of, we are all one. We are all expression of that monad, of that one, of that absolute one. Okay? And so I am the tree. But is there a sense in which I am not the tree? Oh God, are you guys following me? All right? I am the tree, I am the rock, I am the river, I am what? Do you get what I'm saying? But so is there a sense in which I am not the tree? Now, if there is a sense in which I am not the tree, there is already a gap. All right? Now, that gap, is it to ultimately divide us and say we are separate? Or it is to be the basis upon which we know and understand ourselves? And so, to be distinct in the world of diversity do not actually mean to be separate. Do not mean what? So, separation is not the same thing as being distinct from each other. And so while we are essentially one, we can be very distinct. Even among human beings, we are not all the same. You get what I'm saying? We are not what? We are not all the same. All right? And so you have what you like. We don't all like the same thing. Okay? You have your area of interest. Your area of interest is not necessarily or primarily my area of interest. And so our attitude, our behavior and disposition to life differs. All right? Even among humans. Okay? But being distinct, it only serves as the basis to reflect upon the what? To reflect upon ourselves ultimately. You get what I'm saying? Okay? And so, let's say, here's the statement that Jesus made. Love your neighbor as your what? Love your neighbor as yourself. Are we together? And so, the basis of relationship upon which the absolute reflect upon itself is what? And what is the character of this relationship? Is what? It's love, right? It's love. And so what is love? What is love? Now, love is a language, all right? It's a word, and it is something that we use commonly in human space, all right? But then, what truly is love? You see, we must get what love is, okay? Not now, at this point, we must not mistake love for emotions, okay? We must not understand, we must not, in fact, it is very dangerous to understand love, all right, in the sense of emotion. And the reason why there are so many imbalances in human society, professing love here and there, is because we don't know the place of true love and the place of emotion. All right? And so I am feeling in a certain way about a particular person, all right? is not always what love is all about. You cannot say that is love. Are we together? And so let's establish one fact, okay? We can still question that fact. That feeling is not what? Feeling is not love. It's not what? It's not love. You are feeling in a certain way about someone doesn't mean you what? You are in love. You are what? You are in love. And as a matter of fact, our understanding of love in human society, it's always selfishness. Is what? It's selfishness, it's self-centeredness. It's not love. Because what we call love, all right, it's not a construct. You see, it's not a construct. It is the expression of life. It is how life is expressing itself. And so to understand love, it's actually to gain insight into how life works. You get what I just said? Do you understand? And so if you are understanding love, you should be gaining a deeper insight into the operations of life. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it has nothing to do with how you're feeling. All right? Now, our experience so far, in spite of our love talk, all right, has shown, all right, to a very large extent, that we do not know what we are talking about, right? We don't have an understanding of what we're talking about. Okay? Now, first of all, love, okay, if we are to look at it based on what we've been talking about, all right, love is that which allows a form, is that which allows something to be itself. Are we together? Are we together? Is that which allows something to be itself. Now, that it's very inclusive. And what I mean by this is that you may have gone through all kinds of society's conditioning, forms of conditioning, all right? But by the time you realize, or by the time love catches up with you, okay, it deconstructs the mode that you have assumed and allow you to be yourself. You can as well have taken a kind of a personality, all right, that is very hostile, all right, that is very that limits the level of your experience in terms of life, all right. Love does not let you be. You get what I just said? How do I explain this? Love does not help you be at that because it's already a conditioning. Okay? Now, love is wise. And we talk about the wisdom of love as a form of acceptance. And so, while love does not condemn you based on who you are now, you know, by going through all kinds of conditionings, it accepts you, but it doesn't really leave you like that because that is not what you are. You get what I just said? And so, it provides a non-judgmental environment, an acceptable environment, but then ultimately it is to allow life to be itself. You get what I'm saying? And often what we take for ourselves is not what life is. And so love, listen carefully, remember I said allows you to a thing to be itself, but to be itself in the most natural way, not to allow you to be you know, to mirror your conditionings. Do you get what I'm saying? But to allow that which is to be itself in the most natural way. I think that's a very simple way I can describe that. Okay? And so look at it. This is relationship, all right? Okay? the basis of upon which relationship occurs, all right, in the world of diversity is love. Is what? It's love. Okay? And so when you love your neighbor, all right, neighbor can be anything, okay? Not just human beings, can be all forms of life around you, okay? When you love your neighbor as yourself, okay, or loving your neighbor as yourself simply means this, that love in relationship, it's actually what gives you the mirror to look into your own structure. That is to say, without love, the essence of relationship is forfeited. You get what I just said? You get? Now, in the absence of love, what you find is what is wrong with that person, right? What is wrong with that person? You know, how this person is bad, how this person is false, how this person is not. You see, it's all about this person, it's all about these people, okay? Now, when love is the basis of human relationship, then you realize that what you see out there, it's a function of what is what? What is in here. It's a reflection of that which is what? Which is present here. You get what I just said? Do you get what I just said? So love is what creates the possibility for the other to become a mirror through which we gain insight into the world of our own psyche. Okay? And so it does not judge the person, but it allows the person to be. Do you get what I just said? It allows the person to be, and then that becomes the basis for self-reflection. For what? For self-reflection. And then when that reflection happens, okay, when we become aware of what is going on in our own field, all right, in that awareness there is an initiation of change, and the change that occur, all right, from within is the best gift you can offer to the world around you. You realize that? And so if love must ultimately change the other, then it must first change you. You get what I just said? Okay? You see, in relation to the other, the issues you find in relation to the other, okay, love does conquer it in yourself, and out of that transformed space arise the action that is capable of transforming what? Transforming the other. Do you understand what I just said? And so when you have this understanding of love as we find in human space, I think we're going to make progress, right? We're going to make progress, and we're going to enhance our experience, all right, as human beings. Okay? You see, the challenge we face as human beings is that our ego has become more real to us. Do you get what I'm saying? You know, what has become more real to us is what? It's our ego for human beings. Okay? And out of that illusion, all right, comes the way we interact among ourselves. And that is the reason why we are de-evolving. Now, in most cases, we are de-evolving. Okay? It may appear that we are advancing in terms of technology, but in terms of that what? In terms of relationship, we are de-evolving. In terms of who we are beyond the machines that we are creating. There is a great level of there is so much lack of progress in our relationships, in who we are outside of the machines that we are creating, the technologies that we are making. All right, we are really retrogressing. Okay, and so we talk about love here and there, but then the place of love in human society is not what people are aware of. Okay, and so the only real thing in this space of diversity is what? Is relationship. And the moment you talk about relationship, this should what? So relationship is driven on the wings of love. Is what? Is driven on the wings of love. And then we have to explain this just so that you know that this is not the society's ideology of what love is about. It is the love that creates the space for the other to be, so as to serve as a mirror that reflects, the other as the basis of self-reflection. Without the other, there is no knowledge of the self. There's what? There is no knowledge of the self. Please take note of that. There is no knowledge of the self. And so you must think of this person, think of that person, all right, as the basis of self-knowing. You don't know yourself simply by closing your eyes. You know yourself by examining your responses and reactions to the relationships around you. You get what I just said? And that takes a certain level of intelligence. All right? And so it is an expression of intelligence, all right, to reflect upon oneself by having to observe the relationships around us without judgment. And so how many of us really are having to reflect on ourselves by the relationships around us? But what we end up doing is that we judge people. All right? We judge people that have been positioned around us, okay? And we remain in our self-constructed ego. We sustain an idea of ourselves that is completely exclusive. That is not, you see, do you get what I'm saying? You see, an idea of the self that is exclusive of everybody else is an illusion. Is what? In fact, it is self-deceit. Is what? It's self-deceit. You see, is there a knowing if there is not the order that avails itself to be known? Somebody answer. How did we come about the knowledge of chemistry? Is it not by observing the things around us? How did we come about the knowledge of physics? How did we come about the knowledge that we have around us? And so the possibility of knowledge is because of what? Relationship. Is what? Is because of relationship. Without the order, there is no knowledge. Okay? And so, if at a level of consciousness, there is not the order in relation to non-duality, all right, and then there is the order in the world of diversity, you do not throw it off like many people do. Say, oh, everything around you is false, your thought is false, nothing is real. Actually, everything is real. Everything is what? Everything is real. But you must not misplace them. You must not confuse them. All right? Because everything is happening at different levels of what? At varying degrees of consciousness. As what? Yes, at varying degrees of consciousness. And if we don't understand that, we become so insensitive to people, right? Let me paint an example. Somebody tell you this is what is really troubling me, okay? And you're saying, oh, that's not, I beg, just let go of that. You know what I mean now? You don't mind. Now that one even cause you trouble, that kind of thing. No, you see, our risk measures differs, okay? And the extent to which we handle the circumstances around us differs with people. You get? Something may not be very it may not be so much of a concern to you, but as far as the other person is concerned, it is a big deal. Okay? And if you must deal with it with the other, then you must what? You must understand. Do you get what I'm saying? You must not say, oh, because it's not so real to you, or it's not so much of a big deal to you, doesn't mean it's not what? To the other. All right? So everybody is at varying levels of what? Of consciousness. And your thinking process, please take note of this. Your thinking process, all right, based on the nature of life, should always be inclusive. Should what? Should always be inclusive. Because there is nothing there is, all right, that is not part of life. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? If I say there is nothing like time, do you get what I'm saying? If I say there is nothing like time, all right? Now that may be true to somewhat, to some extent. Okay? But time has its place, okay? It has its place. Therefore, your idea of time must not be exclusive. It must what? It must be inclusive. Just like I was sharing, in that first, lecture class, we talked about the limitation of thought, but thought has its place. It has its place. But can we rise above the borders of thought? Yes. Is there more to life than all that is going on in the space of our thought? Yes. How do we transcend that? First, it's not a problem. It is a possibility. Just like we say that time is not the measure of life, but it's a dimension of life. Same thing with thought. Thought is not the complete model of life. Anything that goes on in your thought is not all that is going on in life. But it's a dimension of it, so you can transcend it. You get what I'm saying? Yes. And so whatever your thinking patterns should be inclusive. Okay? And so where did I varying degrees, okay? What you think is not real to you, or it's not so much of a big deal, may not be, for the other, okay? And so why there is no order when we talk about that non-duality, all right? There is the order in the space of diversity, and the place of the order is so that we can reflect on what? We can reflect upon ourselves. And so let's put it this way. The absolute one, all right, is the many. Is what? Is the many. No, it is not one of the many. Just like we think about God. God is an anthropomorphic being, one entity existing in the sky that is different from you and that you are praying to. And you see this in most of these religions. I'm praying to God. I want to have an encounter with God. All of that are born out of our mates. All right? Also understand the passions, the desires that is based on our mate. We have desires and passions that is simply based on our stories and our exposures. Okay? All right? And You see, when you have such picture of God, it creates a separation, right? But then God is the one, the absolute one, the essence of the universe itself. Okay, it is the many. And so the knowledge that the one have of itself depends on the nature of relationship amongst the many. You get what I just said? And so let's take Jesus for example. When he says, have you seen the Father and you have not what? And you have not seen me? And if you read in the book of Thomas, it says, if you don't know yourselves, right? Then you are what? It's like you are bastards, that kind of thing. It's like you are lost if you don't know yourself. You see, because the ignorance of you right now is the ignorance of God. That means God does not know itself, right? And if God does not know itself in the space of diversity, it means the purpose of relationship is forfeited. Because the purpose of relationship is to what? Is for ignorance to transit to knowledge. Do you get what I just said? Is the movement. The purpose of relationship is the movement of ignorance to what? To knowledge. And so within the space of diversity, within the space of relationship, that which is most important is what? Is knowledge. Is what? Is knowledge. And so let's say Jesus or other awakened souls, all right, who came to realize themselves as God, and says, if you don't know yourself as God, then you are lost. Have you seen me and you have not seen the what? And you have not seen the Father. All right? You've not seen the source. Okay? And so the essence to which the many know themselves by reflecting on themselves on the basis of relationship is the extent to which the absolute one knows is what? Knows itself. And so the possibility of knowledge for the absolute one is within the space of diversity. And so if there is no knowledge of the self by reflecting on the self through the other, then God remains in that world, in that remains the unknown. You get what I'm saying? Are we together? Remains what? Remains unknown. Okay? And so how well are we understanding? How do I put it now? How well is God realizing himself, itself as you? Do you get what I'm saying? How well is God realizing itself as you? How well are you knowing you? You see, there is no knowing by excluding people. By what? By excluding others. And I think, look at the word religions, right? If the religions of the world can come to terms, can subscribe to the fact that whatever that is going on in their various religion, right, it's a reflection, all right? It's a reflection, it's an aspect of the human psyche. And so all that is going on in Christianity is the conception of people as a psychic possibility. That when other persons reflect on themselves through the myths, through that mirror, in this case through the Christian religion, through that mirror, they are able to gain a deeper insight into their own spiritual self. Are we together? And so the reason why the Christian is so myopic, so limited, so caged within a given paradigm is because he views himself in utter exclusion. The other do not belong. And so because the other do not belong, it fails to understand an aspect of itself through that mirror. Do you get what I just said? Through that mirror. And so religion function within an ego setting. Within what? Within an egoistic setting, not within a relationship what? Setting. Because where there is relationship, there is an acceptance of the other. If there is an acceptance of the other, you won't try to convert this person to be like you, because love do not have in it a place of cloning. Do you know what? Do you understand? Because as far as loving the other is concerned, please mind my phrase. Loving the other, all right, is not becoming like what? It's not becoming like the other. There's nobody to become like. That's why I told us one time that for somebody to say, I want to become like Jesus, I want to be like Jesus, you are crying in worship to be like what? To be like Jesus. That's complete what? It's complete foolishness. So tragic. You don't be like Jesus, because love do not allows you to what? To be like. Love allows you to be you, because that's the only way the monad, God, can know itself by reflecting on itself through what? Through the other. Okay? And so the person you are to be is what? Is you. Don't become like me. Don't become like Jesus. Don't become like... Do you understand what I'm saying? Be you. It is only when you are you that we can attain that knowledge of what? Of ourselves. If I'm me, and me is just an aspect of you, and by reflecting on me, you gain an insight of you. But by the time I want to be like you, then I hinder the possibility of you reflecting on yourself. Do you get what I just said? Yes. And so at the religious level, in terms of religion now, all right, there is no relationship. And so actually, okay, sorry. Actually, religion, like I said, thrives on an egoistic what? Setting. An egoistic setting. Okay? So to be like Jesus is an egoistic what? It's an egoistic drive. It's an egoistic passion. Okay? It is a cloning process. People trying to this is why we try to be moral, right? What would Jesus do? Do you get what I'm saying? You say, keep asking yourself, what would Jesus do? Every time, what would Jesus do? Okay? And so you want to act the way Jesus would act. You can see that you're already cloned. Maybe it's just a machine. What would Jesus do? You see? So while thinking, what would Jesus do in any given situation? Don't you have brain? What's the base of your... If Jesus is the basis of your morality, then your morality is not trusted. It's not genuine. It's not a life. It's not what? It's not life. A man that says he will not kill because he loves Jesus is a liar. Is what? Is a liar. It's not... It's fake. You are fake. You are what? You are fake. If you say because of Jesus you will not kill, you are a fake man. Do you understand what I'm saying? You are fake. 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 You are. You are fake. Okay? You see? Love in human space allows the order to be. It is on the basis of the order that we know ourselves. And so, how do you gain self-awareness? I think this is clear right now. How do you gain self-awareness? To be self-aware. Do we understand from what I've been talking? So, how do I become self-aware? So that's the question. How do I become self-aware? First of all, by understanding the nature of life in human space as that which happens on the basis of what? On the basis of relationship. That if there is no relationship, all right, there will not be a possibility to be what? The possibility to be self-aware. And so that there is a possibility to be self-aware, it is because there is what? There is relationship. And so how do you become self-aware? First, by understanding what? The nature of life as it plays out in where? In relationship. And then secondly, by understanding the place of what? The order. Okay? And so you now realize that, for example, if I say examine your thoughts, okay, do you know that thought does not exist on its own? Thought does not exist on its own. And so if I say look into your thoughts, check your thought, examine your thought. Now it's very simple, but most people find it so difficult. Okay, what do you all say? How really do we do it? All right, and people do a lot of meditation as they still have that complaint. Okay, how really do I understand myself? You see, the moment you are trying to understand yourself in utter exclusion, you're going to be miserable and frustrated because you're not living alone. In fact, the basis of that thought, it's relationship itself. Okay, so if I have not interacted with you, there is nothing to think about. Okay, it's because I have interacted with this, I ate food, therefore I can think about food, right? Okay, you get what I'm saying? I spoke with you, all right, therefore I can think about what we spoke of or spoke about. All right, so thoughts, even fear, does not exist on its own. You get what I just said? I mean, if you know that this is a very powerful understanding, all right, you see, it does not exist on its own. And so thought is not an existing entity. It's not what? It's not a separate entity. So thought is in relation to something. In what? In relation to something. Therefore, to understand the structure of your own thought, you must observe the streams of relationships around it. You get? And so if you are sitting there right now, if you want to catch your thought, if you want to understand your thought, if you want to observe your thought, okay, you observe your thought in relationship with what? With me, with him, with the things what? Around you. This is how you can see your thought, you can observe your thought. It all happens on the basis of relationship. This is how you become self-aware, by observing the relationships around you. Okay? Do you get what I said? Now, at this point, let me make reference to what Carl Jung said. He said, one do not become enlightened by imagining figures of what? Figures of lights. He said, one, do not become enlightened by trying to imagine figures of light. Like the way, people do it in Christianity. Oh, I met Jesus and the light came into my room. And all of that silly stuff. Okay? You see, that is not the basis of enlightenment. Because you notice afterward, the people still remain the same. In spite of whatever so-called encounters they think they have heard. But the truth is, enlightenment, like I always say, is not a supernatural experience. And so it's not something you are trying to experience. I want to have a cosmic kind of experience, where the whole universe, I realized that, I was one. And so everybody, we are not looking forward to one enlightenment that shows every what? Everything is connected. No, common sense. What? Common sense. Common sense shows that your breathing was done by what? Was made possible not simply because you have the organs to breathe, but because the environment is all playing out in that possibility. And that your life right now is because of what? It's because of the connective, oh God, it's because of the web of connections that is betting that possibility. All right? And so you are breathing right now. Many things are working that you are not even aware of, that is making the breathing right now a possibility. You get what I just said? And so that's simply common sense. All right? And so it says, one do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, because imagination is still based on time, right? Because you imagine out of what you know, it's the past. It's memory, it's thought, it's time. Okay? But it says, one become enlightened by making the unconscious conscious. You get what I just said? By what? By making the unconscious conscious. And so enlightenment is not, you're praying so that your eyes will get opened. You are praying so that you have one, spectacular experience. It's simply saying that one becomes enlightened when the person starts to intentionally observe the strands of his own thoughts. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Now we're going to deal on that. I think he really, I think dreams and visions were, he really did his own psychological, psychoanalysis based on dreams and visions. All right, what you may call Carl Jung analytical psychology. All right. Now, dreams and visions, it's a very powerful mirror through which we can what? We can reflect on our own psyche. What we call dreams and visions is just a mental environment of your what? Of your physical interactions. You have never had a dream or a vision that was outside of this world. You get what I'm saying? It's all. Let's say you are dreaming, you saw me, right? So all of this is a kind of a mental body of what you may call the physical world in that sense. And so all of this plays a powerful role in reflecting, in looking into the unconscious. And so one do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the unconscious what? Conscious. And so this is how you become self-aware, by having to what? By having to examine your relationship. I mean, this is an expression of intelligence. And if you are always doing that, you see, this is what contemplation is about. It's not, it's not a picture of sitting down and just closing your eyes for just no reason. I mean, that has its place. Of course, you always have to, come out from the constant society's motion so as to be alone with yourself, because it's only when you are alone with yourself that you can actually be with the universe, that you can actually be with everything, because you must be, all right, so that relationship can flourish. Because if you are not yourself, there is no relationship. All right, there is no love if relationship is not what? Is not taking place. Do you get what I'm saying? All right, what we see in most cases in human society is the colliding of emotion without relationship actually happening. You get what I just said? Without relationship actually happening. And so, for example, we talk about friendship that are not lasting, or we talk about marriage that are not lasting. If marriage is not lasting, it's because there is no There is no relationship, just a colliding of emotions. Because that one has to do with understanding. It's life. And so this must not be confused for each other. Emotion has its place, but then we must also understand the place of what? Of relationship as not the same thing as what? The feelings that we have and the emotions that we are expressing. Okay, so we must understand the place of what? Of relationship. Okay, in understanding ourselves. So this is the contemplative life. All right, this is the contemplative life. But then the issue with us is that we are often too outward. We are outwardly concerned, outwardly oriented. Okay, and what I mean by that is that we don't, there is a way we see, and that way of perception, all right, it's such that the order, the place of the order is not understood, all right, is not understood, and therefore our perception of the order is such that estranges us from gaining insight into ourselves. And so if I look at you, I should be understanding myself. Okay? Because you are the possibility, including everything captured in my environment, makes up the possibility for self-knowing. Any question at this point? Now, at each point, ensure, when you are an in-depth contemplator, you realize you are able to catch yourself each time you are functioning in an egoistic setting. This egoistic setting is the reason why we have so little knowledge of ourselves. What we think of ourselves is mostly our conditions. And that's what happens with the ego. The ego allows you to maintain that false self that you have assumed in human society. But love stripped you of it. Love what? Yes. Love stripped you of that facade. All right, so that you can really see yourself for who you are. And by the time you see yourself for who you are, you realize that we are all just a mirror through which we look into ourselves. And there is really no separation. Are we together? There is really no separation. Okay? And so, transcending this egoistic setting comes by having to cultivate this understanding and to observe your relationships, to observe the way your thought happens, and how to police your thought, and how to watch over your thought, and how to understand yourself. And so what we just shared now, actually, when properly understood, it saves you, it spares you all of that frustration and misery that people go through. Okay? This is enlightenment. There is no genuine enlightenment other than gaining a deeper insight into your own psychic structure, into yourselves. You get what I just said? I mean, that's the point to this. It does not take God in that sense. We will understand God in an anthropomorphic sense. It does not take that kind of God to exist in human space. It only takes human beings to live in what? In human world. And if humans do not understand themselves, then we begin to look up to the sky for help. And so for me, what makes enlightenment necessary is because we need an accurate knowledge of who we are in order to function as human beings that we are. The knowledge of the self that arises from love that is based on that true understanding of relationship. Of what? Relationship. And so one time I asked the question, what is most real in this world? Okay, quite impressed that some persons were able to say, what is really very real and valuable in this world? It's relationship. Everything. You realize that the wisdom of life, as it transcends the limitation of thought, right, also happens in form of relationship. This is an example. When you take your life, for example, and say, oh, at so and so age, this and this and this should happen, and that should happen, and let's say that you think that your life should happen in a certain way, okay? And all of that are thoughts. Jesus says, take no thought for tomorrow. Not because you should be careless, it's because it is quite rude of you to think that life must work according to how you think. Do you understand what I'm saying? No. You must create a room, a place of trust, where the wisdom of life outshines the limitations of your thoughts. That's humility. It is the nature of the mystical heart. All right? It is only people who want to be certain about everything that puts boundary. They put conclusion on things. And that's not a healthy way to respond to life. Okay? And so, let's say it's not happening like that. Okay? Now, you see, how now in the last now Shay it's been how many years now since we've known? Let's 3, 4, almost 4 years or 5 years now. All right. Now let's say as at 7 years back, did you ever think of something like me? Did I ever come, let's say 7 years back? Did you think of something like me? You see? Now look at it. This is a practical example of this. The relationships that have happened with me, all right? I never thought of it, let's say, years back. Do you get what I'm saying? Are we together? You discover that it happened, all right? And all that has happened, they've happened out of relationship, all right? Life works on the basis of relationships. Now, I really want to get this. All that you need in this life, right? All that you need in this life, everything is going to happen on the basis of what? On the basis of relationships. It is out of relationship. It is on the basis of that life works. And that's why, many people, all right, unfortunately, do not have this wisdom. Do not really have this wisdom. And that's why life becomes very difficult for them. And this is not losing yourself and trying to belong. That's not what I'm talking about. If you are trying to belong, you are losing yourself. If you are losing yourself, then the essence of relationship is what? It's forfeited, right? Then you must be. The relationship that comes out of being yourself is an authentic one. And it is life. It is the one that carries the signature of life itself. You get what I'm saying? Yes. It's the one that carries the signature of life itself. Okay? And so, that's where the trust comes in. You trust the field of life. All right? Trust the field of life. And you know what that trust will do to you? That trust is going to deconstruct your what? It's going to deconstruct your egoistic setting. Because this is majorly where our limitations comes from. Trusting the field of life as an endless possibilities brings your ego to an untimely death. Okay? Any question or anything to say? Less than 30 minutes. Are we blessed? Eh? Yes, okay. I cannot understand. Okay. You are odd. Conflict. Well, what I understand about that is for religion, often religious relationship is not the relationship of life. That is, it's not an authentic relationship. It is a relationship that is based on egoistic setting, right? That is to say, if you no longer belong to that group, then everything that has to do with you with them has what? Has ended, right? And then when you are in a setting where you are not accepted to be, because sometimes when you are in a setting, people want you to be conformed to their ideas, right? And just in case you choose to be different, then the conflict will arise. All right? The source of conflict in human space is because we are not accepting ourselves the way we are. Often we want the other to become like us, or we want the other to think the way we are thinking and stuff like that. And so we never notice ourselves. So what you do for me in that, in that situation is to be yourself. Is what? Is to be. That is, you don't deny yourself, right? If there is the conflict that do not allows you to express yourself and to be yourself, just know that it's not a relationship that is most natural. And life works in a very natural way where you don't have to take on a different form just to please that kind of people. I don't know if does it make any sense to you? Yeah. Do you have any other thing? I understand why. Yeah. It's very funny. People just think, oh, I got this thing from where? No, that I've transited. It's not just because I woke up one day and transition was sweet. It's because of what? Some are at your conscious. I may be taking that action. I think I'm just taking that action all by myself. But the back end of that action, all right, relationship is what? Is part of it. You get what I'm saying? So continue. That's a very beautiful way to express it. Yes. Yes, somebody's a highland of himself. Yes. 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 Exactly. The beauty of life is what? It's like colors. When you are doing painting, you see the beauty of that painting by the relationship of the colors among themselves. And so that's beauty. What's beauty? Beauty is relationship. That's what we see here. And I think nations should understand this, right? Yes, nations should understand this. For example, let's talk about Nigeria, right? Let's talk about Africa, the African people, right? We must know, we must be ourselves. Do you get what I mean by that? We must be ourselves. That's the only way the world can be beautiful. Not being like someone else. Don't be like, be you. But then we've been so distorted, right, in our mentality, that, you know, being just like someone else is a fashion, right? It's fashionable. If I say be like you now, we've all condemned what makes us what? Unique in our world. But not knowing that by truly being yourself as an African woman, all right, ultimately has to what? Add to the beauty. I think it is mental dissonance for let's say the black, for the African to think that by being an African you are superior to those who are from, you know, from other part of the world. And the same mental dissonance if those in other part of the world think that what? Think that they are superior maybe by the color of their skin. So that it's what? It's a distorted way of thinking. All right. The only way we can find true beauty in our world is by having to what? Is by having to be ourselves. Now, do you know it is actually because of the lack of this? That's why we are having some nations struggling in terms of governance. There are systems of governance that may work in what? Among certain kind of people in other part of the world that may not work here. Not because that political system of governance is wrong. It's simply because these people are different. But you see, we copy. In religion, we copy. Everything we what? We copy. But then when we try to what? When we try to be ourselves, do you get what I'm saying? We want to, oh my God. I mean, you see people, let's say you are a Benin person or you are an Igbo person, right? Do you know the beauty, right? Do you know how beautiful it is when by your accent they can recognize where you are from? Do you know the beauty in that? Do you know there's a tremendous what? Beauty in that. So, but we want to speak Queen's what? English. We want to sound touch. Do you understand? But why not just be your what? Why not be? Why not just, sound your mother tongue and let everyone sound their tongue and see the tremendous beauty in that? The moment you try to sound like me, there's nothing. Okay? You are simply hindering the flourishing of this holistic beauty that we find in life. And so relationship is the only realistic thing. All right? And everything is going to be much easier around you, around me, by the time we discover that which life has spoken in silence, all by itself and all by its appearance, which is relationship. Okay? Our world is currently, the world is not balanced. It's what? It's not. The human society is not balanced, and the what has really caused that imbalance in our families, all right, in human structure. Ultimately, it is this egoistic setting. the thinking of oneself in utter exclusion of the other. It is the cause of the imbalance in our world. Okay? So, and I hope we did enjoy ourselves. Are we, those of us online, any question? Before I round off, I've spent some time here. Let me go and relax. It's been a good time with everyone. I love you. Thanks for connecting. Those of us who connected, I really love and appreciate you. Please, when we upload this, please always share. Visit our YouTube channel. Subscribe. Share the link. Invite people to to watch the videos and just be happy. Let's just let's play. Holding our hands together as we dance in the stage of life. Okay? And when we dance, we are heading nowhere, right? We just enjoy the moment. Okay? So never for once think that you want to be serious. Just play. Just what? And of course, you understand my language. Okay? I love you. Stay blessed. Stay good.